Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. There is so much to cover in this small little romp of broadcast that I'm going to try and cram it in as best I can, as the bishop said to the actress. Right, so where shall we begin? Got to collect my thoughts, haven't I, my dear? Collect my thoughts. Well, first of all, actually, I want to say that when I was looking at royal stories in the press, one article jumped out at me which was regarding the pear emoji. And as regular viewers will know, the pear, the fruit of the pear, is a little bit obscured up there in that painting behind me. It's become a sort of mascot for the channel, hasn't it? And for Fruit Basketeers. Well, it's been rather hijacked, according to what I read in the press. A pear social experiment launched last month means that a pear emoji now subtly indicates that you are single. That is apparently what it means. You know, you have the eggplant emoji, known as the aubergine in the kingdom, and the peach emoji. And now you have the pear, meaning that you're single. All single ladies, well, I'm not having that. It says pear emoji to be shared in your socials and biographies. And this pear social experiment began with people wearing a certain kind of ring. In other parts of Europe, I think the whole thing sounds quite vulgar to me, to be honest. And there are other ways to indicate you're single, my dear. Try popping up a bar with a cigarette and your legs on display, my dear. Works every time. Bat your lashes. I mean, the idea of wearing pears everywhere, what are they on about? There's only one kind of pear, that most gentlemen want to see, my dear, and it ain't that sort of fruit. If you get my drift, it's more in the melon family, but I digress. Before we proceed, beautiful photographs shared by the king and his consort from the blue drawing room, and these are the final portraits that have come through before their moment of crowning. So we have that one, and we have two photos of them taken separately in the giltwood and silk upholstered armchairs that were created in the 1800s. And Camilla is wearing Queen Elizabeth's pearl drop earrings, that set that is adorned with sapphires and rubies, and a pearl necklace from her own private collection. And Charles looked dashing there in his chair, doesn't he? I must say, I have noticed, as I'm sure some of you will have, that Charles pays close attention, I think, to having a close shave, and always turns up clean shaven to various events. But I have noticed, and this was really apparent at the state banquet in Germany, the state dinner, when a gentleman usually is freshly shaven, it can also bring out some redness around the lips, can't it? And I think that's what's been giving him a bit of that vampiric quality we've seen lately. Shaving can be a real nuisance, and it can bring out a lot of redness in a gentleman's face, and I think that the king has to be wary of this on him because it gives him a blood-stained appearance, and it's getting that Uncle Fester look that people are noticing. So I would just, for a word of warning for the Coronation, I would say shave the night before and risk a little bit of stubble, because it probably won't be noticeable after a few hours. He can't be that hirsute, it's not going to grow through like a thicket overnight. So shave the night before, my dear, to get that redness away, because I can't imagine that the king is going to be up for much cosmetics, which, I like that about him in comparison to various other world leaders. He doesn't reach for the makeup. But for his coronation day, well, I don't know, my dear. Also today is the 12th anniversary of the wedding of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Isn't it fabulous? 12 happy, happy years. Well, mostly. This photograph was captured by Matt Porteous, and they look gorgeous and relaxed on a beautiful sunny English day on their bicycles. With regards to the coronation, today is a big day for me because it's something I've been really excited about and I've got mixed feelings about. And I've spoken about this before, but it is regarding the Anointing screen. And it has been revealed. Yes, there were rumours and whispers about it. The late Elizabeth used a canopy, but kings and queens in the past have used canopies, screens, whatever it is, my dear, to conceal the holiest, most sacred part of the ceremony, the holy anointing, with the chrism oil, regarded as a moment between the sovereign and God. So I'm going to talk about it, but before I give my opinion on it, I would like you to look at the photographs and draw your opinion before you know whether or not I like it. Make up your own mind before you're influenced by my thoughts. This screen combines traditional and contemporary sustainable embroidery practices to produce a design which illustrates His Majesty's deep affection for the Commonwealth. It was gifted by the City of London Corporation and the City Livery Companies. It was designed by the iconographer Aidan Hart and brought to life through hand and digital technologies, and it was managed by the Royal School of Needlework. The central design takes the form of a tree, and the 56 member countries of the Commonwealth are represented throughout. And at the bottom you will see the King's cipher positioned at the base of the tree. This represents the sovereign as servant of his people. Yes, he is our servant. The design was personally selected by the King. He had an intimate involvement with its creation. And it's been inspired by the stained glass sanctuary window in the Chapel Royal at St James's Palace, which was gifted by the livery companies to mark Queen Elizabeth's Golden Jubilee. The screen is supported by a wooden pole framework made from the oak of a wind-blown tree from the Windsor estate that was originally planted by the Duke of Northumberland in 1765. At the top of the poles are two eagles, very majestic and cast in bronze, gilded in gold leaf. The form of the eagle has a long-standing association with coronations, including on the late Elizabeth's canopy. Yes, there were eagles on that, and also, of course, on the ampulla, which carries the chrism oil, that is cast in the shape of an eagle. The screen is three-sided, and there is one open side that faces the high altar. The two other sides are much simpler. They're inspired by the cosmati pavement, which is that ancient floor covering we've spoken about at Westminster Abbey that is being revealed for the first time in a long time for the coronation. So it's maroon fabric, and the colours of the cosmati pavement, gold, blue, reds, that kind of thing, will form crosses on either side. And it's going to be held by service personnel from regiments of the Household Division, troops and guardsmen from various life guards. And as we might have guessed, there has been a huge amount of involvement with heritage craft, contemporary skills, mixed in with many traditional influences. The cloth includes wool from Australia and New Zealand, woven and finished in our mills here in the kingdom, and the script that's used for the names of each Commonwealth country is designed as both modern and classical, inspired by both the Roman Trojan column letters and the work of Welsh calligrapher David Jones. As well as the King's cipher forming part of the tree, it features angels in the air and decorative roses and a scroll featuring a quote from Julian of Norwich from the 1300s, "All shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." At the top is a sun representing God and birds including the dove of peace, all hand embroidered by the School of Needlework. The people involved in its design have said that His Majesty specifically wanted a very private screen, more private than the one seen previously for his mother. He wanted a very private moment, and he wanted it to communicate a message rather than just have a decorative purpose. It's also been designed with sustainability in mind to be reused for William if he so wants it to be used when it comes round to his coronation. And a dedication blessing ceremony was held for it earlier this week at the Chapel Royal. So I'm very curious to hear your unadulterated thoughts before I offer mine. Make sure you leave me a nice juicy comment, and feel free to include a fruity emoji and perhaps a pear emoji. Let's get some fruits in that fruit basket down there, shall we, my dear? And remind everybody what pears actually symbolise, which is the river broadcast. Yes, my dear. I digress. But my thoughts on it, well, I've been on a bit of a journey with it in the last few hours, my dear. I've got to be honest, I was totally underwhelmed when I first saw it and my heart sank. Yes, it did. It's because I'm so influenced by the late Queen. And what I loved about that canopy was the fact that it was brought along, it was marched along in procession, a little bit wobbly and wavery, but so exquisite. And because we'd heard rumours that it was going to be a sort of gauzy gold material design of this one, which we could see through. And it's the aerial view, which I very much enjoyed. You see, I like the drama that these episodes bring out, these services like the coronation. First one in 70 years, I wanted the theatre, I wanted the drama of that. When I first saw this screen, well, first of all, I thought, screen? You know, this isn't a doctor's waiting room. And it put me in mind, you know, it would be perfectly pretty in a village hall, separating, you know, a children's creche from the Women's Institute or the Gentlemen's Rotary Club. Perfectly fine there, my dear, but not for a coronation. That was my initial thought, although I rather liked the premise of it. But then as I was, you know, writing down my notes and looking through what people had said and learning more about it, it sort of weaved its spell upon me. And also when I began seeing other photographs of it in more darkness, but just like bringing out hints of light on some of the adornments and decorations, I could see a sort of mysterious effect taking hold. And as I took a closer look and watched it from various angles, it began to bring back very deep, profound memories within my own consciousness of church. You know, I sang in the choir at church. Very cold church, I have to say. That's my main memory of it. It brought back memory of church and being the village schools and having these sort of embroideries on display. And there was something simple and very regal about that. That lack of the splendour that I actually really enjoy. I think my fear is that this piece, with its nods to inclusivity, or, you know, we keep hearing about inclusivity, what's that dreaded word, diversity, all this kind of thing. I thought, is it really going to be that dreaded wokeness, you know, a nod to being woke and worthy? I don't want too much worthy going on, you know, making a point because it's the current trend and the current fashion to sort of do a bit of virtue signalling. That was my fear, worthiness without any splendour at all. But actually there is a regal splendour to simplicity and the craft, and also in the nod to Charles's own personality, his loves, which are now really quite celebrated with regards to crafts, his genuine love of heritage, traditional crafts, and skills, maintaining skills, and of course of the Commonwealth. And by rights it should be at His Majesty's and Her Majesty's imprimatur. And I suppose one has to accept that it is healthy to reinterpret, to refresh the visuals. Yes, I'm a bit of a sucker for tradition and a little bit stuffy about it, but I have to remember that Elizabeth would have done it different to George, and George would have done it different to all the Edwards and the Charleses and the Richards. You know, the late Elizabeth's coronation was not the only one in the world, and that was done entirely differently to Queen Victoria's and Queen Anne's, you know, yada yada yada. As with much of what we hear and what we've been privy to with regards to information for the coronation, I will hold my fire and my true thoughts until it is happened, because I do still place a lot of trust in King Charles's taste, so I am happy to wait until I feel like my nose is truly out of joint at the lack of splendour. We shall see, my dear. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt for the moment, but let me know what you think. Well, I'm sure some of you will be preparing for the Markle clan documentary to air on Sunday night at 8:30 in Australia. And a journalist from the channel has shared more behind-the-scenes captures of the Markle clan, and also a few more candid photographs of Meghan, claiming that it was one of several that she never wanted the world to see. Apparently these hidden tapes will stun the world, but I remain yet to be convinced, and a few of you in the fruit basket in the comment section said to me as well. One of you told me that, you know, you're very familiar with the channel because you're Australian, and they are known apparently for hyping. Hype, lots of sensational headlines, but delivering very little on substance. But I, as with the King, I am quite prepared to change my mind, having seen what transgresses. We will find out, but yeah, I'm yet to be convinced we'll see anything truly shocking, but it'd be fabulous if we do. One thing they claim is that Lady Victoria Harvey is going to reveal a big shocker about Prince Andrew. Is she going to confirm once and for all that she had a relationship with him or not? That's what they're implying. What is your relationship with Prince Andrew? And Lady Victoria sort of shifts in her seat, you know, withholding the information, which I've seen her do 6 billion times. I mean, every interview she's asked that question, and every interview she bashfully, we're acquainted, we're friends. Just say one way or the other, dear, or don't say anything at all. That's my advice. But, you know, she knows that is a card that she doesn't necessarily want to deal. Will she deal and play it in this documentary? We shall see. There has been quite a lot of rumination in the press and beyond, with people noticing the approach with Meghan and her new agency and her new representatives, who I believe have also taken on a sort of umbrella of Archewell and Meghan Sussex. But as you would have noticed in their recent announcement that I showed you last time, that was very much about the Duchess. It was very much about Meghan, with no mention of Harry as an individual. And it's raised a few eyebrows. The agency will be focusing on building out her business ventures, across multiple facets of the agency and its broader ecosystem. Oh, what a lot of mumbo jumbo, honestly, this jargon, including film and television production, brand partnership, and more. And it will be interesting to observe how their dual brand, the Harry and Meghan of Netflix fame, the love story, to see if that brand image splinters and fractures as she goes it alone with her new agency. Will Archewell become Rachewell? Because it's interesting, isn't it? They are quite alike, those words, aren't they? Archewell, Rachewell. A well of money. One of those wishing wells that people chuck their coins into. They're old coins, my dear. And if you peer down the well and have a look down there, there is Rachel Ragland scrapping around. Scrapping around for the shrapnel. Well, we will have to wait and see how she merchy wells, won't we, my dear, over the next few months, because it's all about to kick off. And something else that kicked off over the past couple of days is this report about Angela Kelly being turfed out of her cottage. You know Angela Kelly, nicknamed AK-47 because of her personality type. As Harry intimated himself, she's not popular with everybody, even though she was beloved of the late Queen. Just as a reminder, Harry said about Angela Kelly that she is obstructive, in his tone, a troublemaker, and I didn't need her as an enemy. Oh dear. You know, the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, was tickled by strong characters. She was. So what was seen as abrasive to other people, or, you know, remember she was married to the late Philip, who had a particular type of personality as well, was rather bold and not bashful in saying what they think, or shy in coming forward, backwards in coming forward. She seemed to rather enjoy being around that type of personality at times. Those who aren't too meek and mild, should we put it that way, while still maintaining a layer of decorum and respect, as Angela Kelly has done. But she is moving out of Windsor Castle Cottage, which is her grace and favour home that was said to have been granted to her by the late Elizabeth, and there are rumours of a rift with the family. Well, I believe that we should not be making assumptions at this point. We don't know. We don't know what conversations have taken place. We don't know what the King has had on his mind with regards to this. And also, please understand that the press have totally sensationalised this story as it's presented so far, because they took this information from her Instagram account, which is called Agent High Heels, and it was actually a few days ago when she just casually posted about this. It completely went under the radar at the time, and then it was picked up by the press as an exclusive, and it was suggested that her phone was cut off by the palace, as if something nefarious was going on. My dear, take it with a pinch of salt, because yes, her phone was cut off, but she doesn't work for the royal family anymore, so why would she continue to use a work phone? Isn't that what happens when most people leave their employ? She said that she is getting ready to say goodbye and to move 180 miles away to the Peak District, and that's when she mentioned to a friend that her work phone had been disconnected. And we also need to remember, before we start claiming that she's hard done by, that she was also granted permission to publish 3 books. Her late Majesty gave permission to have been published, with one on the way, still to come, and the proceeds of that won't have done her any harm either. And yes, she worked for the late Queen for 25 years, but it was the privilege and joy of her life. It was a fabulous position. She was given more responsibility after more responsibility, and I'm sure was rewarded handsomely enough during her time there. And there aren't many jobs that grant you a grace and favour home for life. once you've finished that. And some have said that it is not unusual for a senior aide not to be granted that sort of home by the royal family. Well, times are changing. It's not just senior aides that it affects. They also say that it might affect those as close as Prince Andrew to King Charles. And also Angela Kelly, although she was such a trusted, close confidant to the Queen, she was not a traditional lady-in-waiting. She was not that sort of courtier or aide with an aristocratic background and a familial interrelationship with the royal family. It was a different sort of relationship. She was an employee. But I am not privy to what was discussed with regards to her accommodation for the rest of her life, before the Queen died, after the Queen died, and neither, to my knowledge, is anybody else privy to that information, apart from those who are involved in the situation. So at this point, I think it would be incautious to be tempted to read between the lines too much. As Angela Kelly herself seems to imply in her post, she is looking forward to her new start at her new location, and as well as many things we don't know, we also don't know if she might have also been aided in her move or consulted with regards to her move, that it might have been a joint decision, that it might have been decided that actually the Grace and Favour apartment, the very humble cottage, wouldn't really be as exciting as it sounds, because many of those royal cottages that are granted are not as desirable or practical as they might sound to commoners or peasants. Sophie Edinburgh spent 5 hours at a hair salon, getting her roots done in preparation for the Coronation. Yes, she was at a salon in Chelsea, Richard Ward, and she emerged looking fresh and all touched up in her checked trousers and camel casuals with bright green clutch. She was also photographed at the Kent Refugee Action Network in pink checks, and there was an amusing moment, slightly odd, where she drew a royal family tree on a whiteboard. She was explaining the line of succession at one point. Yes, I'm not quite sure why the late Queen is frowning there. I'm sure she might have explained it at the time, but that's a rather peculiar visual, probably looking with distress at what's happening with the family below. But yes, she drew that diagram, and also she planted a tree and made friends with students and animals at the Leaf charity that inspires and motivates young people through work-based learning. And the King joined members of the Canadian Mounted Police for a special ceremony at Windsor Castle to mark his appointment as Commissioner-in-Chief. With a royal connection dating back to the reign of Victoria, the Mounties will be part of the coronation procession, and the Mounties taking part will be riding the 5 horses who joined this ceremony: Derby, Sir John, George, Elizabeth and Noble, who was gifted to the King. His Majesty was also presented with this commemorative officer's sword. The Prince of Wales is to be subject of a new documentary, it has been announced, for ITV, and it's going to be aired in the summer, and it's going to follow the launch of his homelessness initiative with public engagement across the country. And if it's well received, I think we can probably expect to have more of the same coming along. And there was a lovely moment, by the way, when William was with Catherine in Wales. Was it yesterday? And she was asked about her engagement ring by one of the crowd. Did you see? And Diana came into conversation, the late Princess of Wales. And they had a cosy little chat captured on camera. And Catherine said, "We miss her every day. She is very much part of their life and her grandchildren's life, and well remembered." And while the late Diana might not have been so very happy about next week's crowning of her arch rival, at least we can say that she would have been absolutely delighted as her successor to the role of Princess of Wales. Well, actually that's not quite accurate, because that successor was indeed Camilla, but you get my drift, don't you, my dear? The next publicly styled Princess of Wales, in the form of Catherine, because she simply could not have asked for a better daughter-in-law. There is simply nobody in this land or in any other realm that could do what Catherine is doing for this family, for her son William, and for the nation. It is William's shining achievement, actually, that he had the good sense to know what was right for him, first of all, but secondly for us. She is fantastic. She is fabulous. And if the monarchy is under threat, she is surely one of its strongest assets and is rooting new foundations into the fabric and the architecture of that splendid institution that many of us love and enjoy and want to see preserved for as long as it is appreciated, in my opinion. I have no wish to subject Catherine of Wales and William of Wales to lifelong jobs of service, and to little George. I was going to say Georgina, but I won't get carried away. To little George. Oh no, I love my nicknames. Oh no, now I'm going to start calling him Georgina. I'm going to come in for awful disparagement. To Prince George. Why do I do these things? I can't help it, my dear. I do this with family members, friends. They all have dreadful nicknames, but it's my sense of humour, dear. I digress. Where was I? Yes, little Prince George. Yes, I don't want to subject them to a lifetime of being our servants to a bunch of ingrates. So if the generations coming through are ingrates who have no association or no affection for the traditions of this country, then be off with them, be off with them, be off with them, my dear. And yes, let the monarchy come to an abrupt finale, my dear, because they quite simply don't and won't deserve it. But for the time being, most of the population are in favour of the monarchy, are in favour of our new king and queen, and that is why you will see a coronation of regality and royalty and enthusiasm taking place in just 1 week's time. Yes, my dear, the coronation is on the way. So let's sit back and enjoy the spectacle, my dears. Until next time, my lovers, stay fruity, on royal duty, leave me a juicy comment, and my tip jar is in the description box below, and I thank you very sincerely. See you next time, my dears, and toodle pip.